Hello again, everyone. Andy Garcia here, looking at the markets, and we're looking at the major currencies here, just taking a look at the dollar index futures and comparing it to the major currencies that we look at, talking about the dollar index futures here on the far left. As you can see, you got the dollar index futures on a 4-hour chart, and you got the yen, the Swiss franc, and the Canadian across the top. You got the euro, the pound, and the Australian dollar all across the bottom. And I said a minute ago, you have 4-hour charts, and the 4-hour charts allow us to see a little bit more information in terms of looking at last week's trading range and comparing it to this week's trading range. So the first thing that I like to do is go look at last week's trading. You can see it highlighted here in the dollar index futures. You got last week's low, close, and the high. And essentially looking at last week's trading range, you can see that the dollar index futures basically showing a little bit of strength here off of last week's low, 78.91. This week, not even able to go down to that level to test the level, to test that previous low, which is really important. Finding support last week right around 78.91 and essentially working its way off of this level, pushing higher. You can see the dollar index futures working its way back above 80 this week, pushing back above last week's trading range, and ultimately finishing right around 80.30. The interesting thing here is that we did finish pretty strongly. We finished on the higher end of the trading range. Now, going into next week, we're going to have to be very cautious to see if this market can break above this 80.30, considering that the momentum over the last week was up. And so, this line here at 78.91 is your line in the sand. If we go below this, then the market will probably start to continue to move lower and breach some major levels in the dollar index futures. In the meantime, as you can see, the dollar index is basically putting up a fight and trying to stay above this key level at 79 even. Euro, on the other hand, finding some resistance at 37.01 last week, and this week basically continuing the sell-off after approaching that level. As you can see, last week hitting the high, and then this week just basically staying pretty much below 36.38, which was last week's closing price. And then ultimately this week back below 135. Very important that it wasn't very easy to get into this trade if you were not prepared for it. I mean, you had to pretty much be very meticulous about it. As you can see up here in the 136s were your opportunities. You got these lower highs where the sellers came in and pounded the market. But if you were trying to get long at 135, you can see that the support level did not hold, and essentially we washed out everybody who tried to buy support at 135, finishing as low as 133.62 here in the euro. I'm expecting that the market may either find support here, depending on if the dollar index futures is finding resistance, or if the dollar continues to press higher, then we will actually see the euro back down below 132, and then potentially even back down to 130, testing that major psychological level. You're looking at the pound here, and the pound looked like it tried to break down below last week's trading range, had a little bit of resistance, not able to continue to the downside, and essentially, as you can see, it failed, and the market rallied after the failure of the breakdown here, pushing back up as high as 158.50, but closing right around 158 even. As you can see, the pound basically practically chopping sideways, not able to continue to the downside. And this is really curious to see if this pound is setting up for a move into this week going higher. Maybe perhaps that'll give us some insight into what we can expect in the euro. When we're looking at the Aussie here, you can see that we did get a nice breakdown on last week's low. You got the breakdown here, never getting a retest. The retest not occurring. As you can see, this retracement not able to take you back up to the last week's low here to test the resistance, and essentially the same thing at the back end of the week, closing below last week's low. Interesting here. So the Australian dollar, if you weren't in it on the initial breakdown here, then chances are you did not get a hold of it. But if you were in at 103.50, it looked like it turned out to be a pretty nice 100 pip runner to the downside, and essentially giving you a pretty decent opportunity there in the Australian dollar. Japanese yen here looking like it's running into a little bit of selling up at 94 even. Was able to break out of last week's trading range. You can see going above last week's high, but not able to maintain the momentum. So this is really important in that if we're not able to exceed the 94.05 level here going into this next week, chances are we should see this thing to the Japanese yen work its way down to the 90s, the low 90s, and potentially go back down there and test support, see if there are some buyers here on a long-term basis. Swiss franc here, same thing as the dollar index futures. You can see finding support last week right on Friday and able to put in higher lows this week, say around Wednesday and Thursday, as you can see. So now the question here is you're forming a nice little trend line underneath you in the Swiss franc, and it looks like on a daily chart things are setting up for a nice move back up to the 95 zone or something like that. But in the meantime, as long as you continue to stay above this high, or as long as you stay above this low that was established last week at 90.21, then I think that the Swiss franc has a better chance of pushing back up to the 95 zone rather than pushing below the 90 even level. Canadian dollar here trying, you can see multiple times to push down below last week's low, unable to push with any conviction, and that is a sign of non-confirmation. So in a sense, all the people that were short underneath the big parity level, one even, got squeezed out. As you can see, the market closing right around 1.0024, back above the big parity levels. So this kind of confirms what you're looking at in the Swiss franc and the dollar. The question is to see next week if the dollar continues to maintain strength, and if that is the case, then you're going to start to see the Swiss franc and the Canadian dollar probably continue to rise. Looking for the Swiss franc potentially to reach up into the 95 zone, looking for the 102 area potentially in the Canadian. We'll talk about that a little bit more in the long-term video, in the premium video. But on the flip side, you're going to look at the euro, pound, and the Australian dollar potentially moving lower. You got the euro potentially pushing down to the 130. The pound looks like if it does continue to move lower, you have a reach down into the 155 zone. And the Australian dollar, you know, we got the big parity level underneath you that that may be a target that we can look forward to. So with that in mind, folks, this is Sandy signing off. Hope it helps. Good luck. This is all I got for this market wrap, and I'll be looking for some more continuation order flow going into next week if the dollar index futures has been able to find support over the last couple of weeks. So we'll see you at the next market wrap. Take care. While I got you here, I wanted to take a quick moment to say that if you really liked what you're looking at here in the free Forex market wrap video, I wanted to give you the opportunity to come take a look at the premium weekly Forex market wrap video that I do every week. And basically it's a little bit more in depth, or should I say a lot more in depth information about the markets that I cover. And you can see here that in this short video I go over the basics about what I've been looking at on the major currencies. In the more in-depth market wrap video, I take a look at a in-depth analysis on the 6 major currency pairs. You also get actionable trading scenarios. The important thing here is that we're offering a 3-day risk-free trial, so you don't have to pay a cent. It's about a 30 to 45 minute video that'll go through all the major currency pairs that I look at, and it shows you a lot more in-depth analysis and forecast, looking at the longer term picture and the big major trends that are affecting what you're looking at on the lower time frames that you're looking at on a day-to-day basis. So take a moment to go take a look at the premium market wrap video. You can see the link here provided, www.traderstouch.com/3day, and it also includes a free membership to the Traders Learning Network, where you can meet other traders that are like-minded individuals, and they're basically there to help everybody looking at the same markets as you. So good luck, hope it helps, and look forward to seeing you on the inside.